What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, hate. Now, I'm going to get right into this video. I saw something that, you know, um, certain things, it's hard for people to let go of. But I saw a fight between Juan Marcias and James Kirkland. And, James Kirkland got stopped a minute and 56 seconds into the first round. Um, Here's one of the things. James Kirkland, from the time I remember seeing him for the first time with Ann Wolfe, he could punch. He didn't have the best beard, and his defense, he had no defense. His best defense was his offense. If he could just smother you with punches and just try to get you out of there. When he started to step up in competition, you could see where it's like, no, see his lack of skill. It started to show even more. And people would always say, you know, um, he's an exciting fighter, and that's what people like. They like excitement. Now, this is not to attack James Kirkland. I wish everybody nothing but the best. But what I'm doing in this video, I'm using James Kirkland, for example, and I've done this before. He was a perfect example for the point that I'm going to make. It's one thing to want to see an exciting fighter that gets knockouts. But when you realize a fighter has so many flaws that he's only going to go so far. That's how I saw James Kirkland. Ann Wolfe was trying to get him to listen to her. She would be giving him solid advice in the corner. And they even had a split at one point where he went with some other, trainers, got knocked out again. James Kirkland, after seeing that fight with Juan, Marcias, I feel like this. I don't know, what else he has other than boxing. But hopefully he has something that he can indulge in and make money and take care of himself, because as a fighter, he's finished. He was finished years ago. And to see him coming in now and he was getting hit with every punch that this guy was throwing. When I say every punch, I'm talking about every punch that you can possibly throw. He was getting hit with it. And he couldn't avoid any of it. He had no defenses. And of course, his defense is even worse now with him getting older. His reflexes, his timing, his reaction time, even for him to throw shots, his footing looks bad. He throws wide shots. He's slower now. And even if he still has some power, it doesn't really matter because he can't hit the target. And again, one of his worst flaws is his defense. He was always so easy to hit. Always. I remember when he fought Canelo, and I remember that great lie that they told, this is going to be an action-packed fight. Nah, he's going to get destroyed. In the first round, he ran over there and jumped on Canelo and threw all these desperate punches trying to get Canelo out of there. And he knew that was his best chance if he could catch Canelo and crack him and get him out of there. But I knew that fight wasn't going to be, it's like, no. James Kirkland was a fighter that, we've seen certain fighters that they were decent and they just never got better. Guys like, Jermaine Taylor. You saw him, he fought Hopkins, and people were thinking he's only going to get better, and he never really did. Chad Dawson. If you saw him and thought, he's good, he's only going to, no, he never did. Certain fighters just, they don't get better. They get as good as they're going to get, but they don't evolve. It's like, okay, this is as high as I'm going to go. And they just stay there. James Kirkland, but at least for Chad Dawson and Jermaine Taylor, they did have some skill. Chad Dawson, to me, he lacked heart. Jermaine Taylor, he lacked discipline to me, and his decision making wasn't the best. His punch selections and just his lose focus. But James Kirkland never had defense at all. He has no real rhyme or reason with his punches. He just tries to knock you out. But watching him just get battered like that, actually, I thought the ref could have stopped it before he did, because he was getting hit with flush shots. He just looks sloppy. He looks awful. And like I said, hopefully he has something that he can do to make money and take care of himself and live a good life. because boxing, I can't really imagine him getting back in the ring. Like, who are you going to put him in the ring with that it's even worth him? I mean, the fact that they even put him on a PBC card was, like, it was a blessing. At the same time, he got punished. It was bittersweet, like, hey, you on PBC, bro. Beating James Kirkland doesn't do anything for Juan Marcias. Because even in James Kirkland's best, at his best, he was, always a contender. And that was it. He was always a contender. But like I said, once he got to the top guys, it's like the higher he went up, step up in competition, James Kirkland, his flaws just showed. And I don't know what it was that with him and Ann Wolfe, why he didn't listen to her, but he wound up coming back to her. But it was like, it's no saving James Kirkland, because the things, when a guy's fighting this one way for so many years out of his life, it's hard for them to change. James Kirkland, he never had defense. He was always an easy guy to hit, and I just couldn't see him going far. I just couldn't. He could not compete with the top guys. You can't be elite if you can only. And to be honest with you, he's a D. James Kirkland is a he's a D plus, a D minus fighter. He's a D minus fighter. He's not even a D plus. He's a D minus fighter, because he has nothing but power. He has no head movement. He has his ring IQ. Is non-existent. His defense is non-existent. His footwork is non-existent. He basically was just a guy that loved to bang, and he would get in there, and like I said, at that point back then, he could crack. So with the guys that he was putting him in there with, it worked for him. But I could clearly see, like, nah, man, he has a lot of work to do. But people would always say, you would hear Max Kellerman and these guys, he's an exciting fighter. You're building him up to be something he's not. And he's going to get in there, and his flaws are going to show. His weaknesses are going to show. His terrible, terrible boxing IQ is going to show. And I'm just being perfectly honest about how I see James Kirkland. James Kirkland, hopefully, he doesn't climb back in the ring. After what I saw, there's no reason. For what? For what? I mean, he got destroyed 1 minute and 56 seconds, and he didn't even lose to an elite fighter. But like I said, he hasn't been he was never an elite fighter, but he's been out of his prime for years now. So it's nothing new. And the thing is, I didn't even know James Kirkland was still fighting, to be honest with you. But this is what happens when you gas up a fighter and make him think he's better than what he is. And Ann Wolfe was keeping it real with him. So maybe what it was with Ann Wolfe is she was just being real. But in his mind, he felt like he wanted to do what he wanted to do. I just think what Ann Wolfe wanted him to do, he didn't have the heart or the desire. And she knew how to push him to bring the best out of him, and it just didn't work out. But yeah, it's one of those things, you see it and you acknowledge it, but a lot of people don't get it. Your life is worth more, your health is worth more than just being able to say you want to fight. Especially when you have so much to learn and you get to the point where it's just too late. So, yeah, it is what it is. I just wanted to point these things out. And, fighters, you got to get your skills up, man. It's more than just having knockout power. When that power fails you and you have no other gears to go to, then that's what happens. But this was James Kirkland's situation years ago. So when a guy sticks around this long and he's losing fights, usually it's because they need money. It's not about so much, I just love fighting. Especially when you can't change, you can't evolve. At some point you got to say enough is enough. And if you can't do it, somebody has to do it for you. And of course, people get upset and feel like people turn their back on them. No, they're trying to keep you healthy, man. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say on this video. But hey, listen, salute to both fighters. Hopefully, he didn't sustain any injuries, anything that's going to, stay with him for the rest of his life, or, anything like that. Shout out to both fighters for, showing up, fighting, and, nobody getting seriously hurt. But anyway, and shout out to Juan Marcias for his victory. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's all I'm going to say in this video. Catch y'all on the next one.